There you go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, hi there. Today I'm here with Daniele Bernardi. He's a developer out of San Francisco, and he has worked as developer solutions architect at Facebook, also as a VP of engineering at Ghost. Now he is the founder and CEO of Toolhouse. And I think we first met when you were head of developer advocacy at Twitter, when it was still called Twitter. Um, yeah, how's it going, Daniele?
Not too bad. It's hectic. Love being a founder, but you mentioned Twitter. It feels actually my last year there. You have a small team, small budget. You need to be scrappy, resourceful. So it's kind of my vibe. I like it a lot.
Yeah, okay. So today you are building Toolhouse, which is an AI company for developers, and it seems like everyone is doing AI these days. So what is it about?
So you're right. Everybody's doing AI these days, and so both developers and vibe coders are trying to get onto AI. It's as if like there was this new freeway, called the AI freeway, and everybody obviously needs a car to get into that freeway and drive. But you look around, you try to get to a dealership, nobody has the car. They only sell parts. They only sell the windshield, the gearbox, the engine, the seat, the frame, but nobody sells the freaking car. So who's building the car? Nobody. We are. So what Toolhouse does is to basically do to AI what Ford or Toyota did to cars. They make them cheap in the industrial process that takes to build these things, and they make it all in one. So instead of assembling your own car, you just drive it, you know, and because it's
Okay,
mass produced, it's very cheap. So we have for like more developer focused terms, we are a backend as a service. So think of Supabase, but for the AI stack. Supabase does auth, does database and functions. We do RAG, memory, the cloud infrastructure, the runtime. So the idea is you jump onto a house, you describe what you want, the prompt, then you deploy, it becomes an API. From that moment on, each one of your agents become an API. It's super simple. And then when you're ready, you can integrate it. You can use it on its own. You can schedule it, and it's all out of the box, all in one, all integrated. Already
so
integrated with 40 plus
it's not like a
tools.
coding tool like Cursor or GitHub Copilot or something. It's more like for building AI applications for yourself.
It's for building AI applications, both for, we have two modes basically. One is the easy mode for people who cannot code. So it's mostly UX driven. And then there's a command line interface for people who live in their cursor or live in their warp terminal, like whatever you use, doesn't matter. You can choose to do the easy mode or the hardcore, plain old developer style.
Okay, that's so cool. So what are people actually building with your tool?
Everything. It's I'll give you this one pointer. Parts of Toolhouse are now built on Toolhouse itself. Like one of the things
Oh,
that internal functionalities are built on Toolhouse. Parts of the platform are run by AI agents. Our help system, our documentation is actually a Toolhouse agent. And uh, outside, we see recommendation systems, marketing, competitive intel. GTM teams, strategy teams use it to do like a lot of competitive intel, lead generation. Like the sky is the limit. Basically, it's so horizontal because it's a developer platform, it's a backend as a service. So similar to the use cases that you would see with Supabase. Again, that's our north star because it's a horizontal platform, so it doesn't have a specific use case. You can build whatever you want.
so you also provide like a database to ingest external data sources or internal data sources for the AI to pick it up?
Correct. We have our own RAG, and again, it's super easy. RAG is one of the hardest thing to get right and to implement. First, because you need the right data, and the right data means that you need to whatever you have. If you have PDFs, then you have to chunk them. You need to actually split pages, and then within the pages, the sentences, and then you need to try and figure out your kind of embedding algorithm or model. You need to figure out if you need dense RAG, sparse RAG, and then all those decisions take a long time. Then that happens before you even make the integration with the LLM.
Yeah.
Instead, in Close, you have this command on the command line. It's called thrag, So thrag create creates a new rag for you, and then thrag upload, you upload the file, and then we do everything else for you, like the uploading, obviously, the chunking, the indexing. So no
That
no issues there. Like you just we make it simple for developers to build, so that they can worry less about the plumbing, if you will, and more about what matters the most, which is getting their customers happy and extracting value from that.
So basically, the long-term vision is to be like a framework for all kind of AI-driven application.
Not a framework. I don't think we're ever going to become a framework. We're going to be the platform. So what AWS did to the web, we're going to do to AI. AWS is a cloud, it's a set of services you use to make sure your app is nice app and scalable with all the services you need. And same here, that's going to be the most complete cloud and infrastructure where you can build your own agentic stack with simplicity and openness. Like your data stays yours. You're not locked into a specific platform. You're not locked into a specific model. We are universal. You can bring your own model, or you can use our default model.
So you deploy your own models as well?
Yeah. So by default, everybody uses a single, like very basic model, but it does the job. It does the job. Um, if you are a fan of, I don't know, maybe Grok or
Yeah.
Anthropic, then you can simply switch. You bring your own API keys, you select the model you want, and then behind the scenes, we do all the optimization necessary. Like you know that between Llama and Anthropic, probably you'll need different system prompts for what you're doing. You know, maybe a little bit more verbose for Llama, a little bit less for Anthropic. So we do that kind of optimization for the user as well.
Oh, that's so interesting. So what would I need to get started on the Toolhouse platform?
So just go on toolhouse.ai and sign up. It's free to get started. And then when you productionize your agents, every run costs less than 1 cent, 0.0078 cents to be
Wow,
exact.
that's really cheap.
Yeah. So
That
for the
sounds like a
price,
good deal.
yeah, you get basically 1,000 runs for the price of a latte in San Francisco, which is uh, like it goes a long way. Basically, like we want to make sure that it scales with usage, and then obviously we have better pricing plans for when you scale up more. So about making sure that people succeed with Toolhouse. It's not really about revenue. There's a lot of hype in our world because a lot of founders try to get the attention of investors by telling people, "Hey, we have this much revenue." We're actually already funded, and our investors are not pressing us for revenue. They're pressing us for building the best possible product ever, and that's the perfect alignment because that's how you win. You know,
Yeah.
there's
I
no
mean, that's basically
marketing,
what ChatGPT and OpenAI did, right?
yeah,
They built it a long time, like in stealth mode, and then they came out, and everyone was just like, "Wow, what is that?" Yeah.
yeah. All
Um,
there is to do is really making sure that you understand the problem your customers are trying to solve.
yeah. I mean, like for the long-term vision, I mean, you mentioned it already. Like everyone is doing AI right now, and depending on where you look, it looks a lot like a hype. What parts of AI or what use cases of AI do you imagine are here to stay rather than just blown up and go away at some point?
Yeah, it's really hard to look past the hype. I think one thing has already happened. So coding has changed forever, and I strongly believe that. So much so that it's really changing the game for many companies. We're seeing two kind of waves now. We have the vibe coding movement, if you will,
Hmm.
and people sometimes frown upon those people. But those people are actually people who can't code but have a fantastic idea. Maybe they want to solve their own personal problem, and they do it. Now they can do
Yeah,
that without resorting to learning how to code, and all they have to do is learn how to scale their marketing once they get a good solution. And on the opposite side, we still have some developers. They're getting fewer and fewer engineers actually that are reluctant to even embrace AI assisted coding, and I meet daily with a lot of them, and those are going to become the laggards. They think that basically uh, AI is still a toy. AI assisted code generation is a fad. It's just something that's not helpful, and they better off doing it themselves the old way. But there's a thing, like I'm an engineer too, and as an engineer, I have a lot of very manual, repetitive tasks that I had to do, like with
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
scaffolding, creating. For example, if you're building a backend app, there are usually like three components. There's the model, then the controller, then maybe the migration if you're introducing a new table, and with AI, it automates all of that and goes even beyond. Like you can also make running the migration on your local machine, you know, uh, and it starts from a simple prompt. Like maybe you have something that you jotted down. Maybe you have like good penmanship. You can shoot a picture of your diagram, feed it into AI, and AI creates the model, the view, the control, like whatever piece of code you need to get started with. That's a great advantage. Like you're not letting AI take over your job in that case. You actually use it as you would use a batch script that
Yeah,
does that. I
it's
think there's
just
a lot of fun in that.
optimizing productivity in that sense.
It's a productivity booster. And engineers, we need to find efficiency and the laziest path forward most of the times. And so I'm very shocked that engineers don't understand that they're sitting on a massive productivity booster so they can actually focus on solving the right problem uh,
Yeah,
with more time in their hands.
yeah. I mean, that's one thing, like for your day-to-day tasks. Always find it very useful for like bigger things or things in other languages that I don't use on a day-to-day basis to just try out stuff. It gives me the motivation to actually complete it, just because I'm so much faster in like learning the intricacies and details of a new language, right? Or a new framework or whatever. Uh,
Absolutely. I think you're like there's so much more. Like you can think with AI, like you can do the rubber ducking thing. Like when you
yeah,
need to talk a problem through, and just ask AI for inspiration. And it's okay. Like AI has been trained on a lot of documentation, a lot of technical docs, design documentation. So it's not that it thinks, but it can give you some creative input. Again, like I think like the hardcore engineers are really conflating the value of AI for a toy, and it's not. And so they, as a result, are lagging behind the new era of people who can just get started and ship things more quickly than ever. It shouldn't come as a surprise that when OpenAI bought Windsurf, the code editor,
yeah,
how Windsurf is built internally. They have as many engineers as their sales force. They need to sell it to enterprises because enterprises recognize the value of efficiency. And so, one way or another, this is happening already. And it's only up to us to figure out what is the best way to leverage this tool.
I think that's also like an interesting way to look at it. Like because there are still people believing AI is just a toy. The way to succeed as an AI company is actually to build a very polished product, right? I mean, so much more than probably in the days before, where I mean, we had open beta versions in the late 2000s and early 2010s, and you're going just fine with that. But in AI, so much has changed, that I think the key to success is really building a solid product.
I would go the extra mile and say you can build a good enough product much quicker than and much cheaply than ever. And I think this is the new unlock for our world, our industry. You know, actually one thing that may sound a little counterintuitive is that it doesn't matter how ugly your product is if it delivers actual value to users. And
Yeah,
that's why like some people might again be a little skeptical of CLIs, but if the CLI does something and you never opened your terminal before, you're actually going the extra mile and learn how to use the CLI because it provides so much value to you that you're willing to just learn. And then obviously from there you make the CLI as easy and simple as possible to use for everybody, then that you make it a no-brainer, but it doesn't have to be that from day one, but you can reach that simplicity in much quicker than ever. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
our ultimate game with Toolhouse and what we did right is to achieve that simplicity. We're Italians. I'm Italian. I was born in Italy, and like one of my favorite quotes is from Leonardo da Vinci. It says, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." So hard to achieve, and it requires a
Yeah,
lot of iteration and a lot of thinking. And so the thinking AI cannot do well. I cannot do for you. It can give you pointers, but then it's up to you. It's up to your feelings. It's up to how you conceive your way of the world. So it's really something unique to each one of the companies that I've seen. I've seen companies doing developer experience done right, you know, and also the developer experience done terribly. And that is something that you cannot teach. You cannot really create a textbook about it. It's really pure understanding, and the understanding, an AI cannot help you with that. Another person cannot help you with that. It starts with you.
absolutely. Yeah, like talking about the adoption at developers side, like you mentioned, like some developers still are laggards, basically, a bit reluctant to adopt AI directly. So what about those people who feel like, okay, maybe it's a thing, but I lost track of what happened. So what would be the best start to actually ramp up your knowledge about AI tools and AI development?
That's a very good question. It's super easy uh, to really uh, lose track with all the announcements that we see every single
Yeah,
day.
I mean, we are probably now at a faster pace than JavaScript frameworks, right?
Right. Yeah. My God. I remember back in the early days of React, like it would ship so quickly, and yeah, you
Yeah,
couldn't. But at least it was the same. It was the same product, so you would go to the change log, and understand what happened. I don't. I think I actually, I give up. I mean, my job is as a CEO and as a founder of a backend as a service company is to make things simple for everybody else. That is basically digesting all this information, all these new products, new updates, new technologies, and figure out, is this good for our customers or not? Should they learn about it or not? And the answer is 99% is no. You shouldn't be bothered as a customer, as a user, as a person even about this latest advancement. You know,
hmm,
talk about RAG, again, my example from before. When we talk about RAG, we talk about dense or sparse RAG, the chunking method, the embedding model, but we never talk about the use case. So all these technicalities are actually uh, stealing time away from what matters the most. How can I serve my customer better? And so in this time, you start to figure out whether sparse, dense, RAG, all these parameters are needed or not, or matter or not. You are wasting time thinking about the problem, how to solve the problem for your customers. And so our job is to really take the complexity, reduce it to zero for our customers and make it
yeah,
extremely simple for them. So my suggestion to your question directly is stop caring about the technicalities. Like we talk a ton about JavaScript. We don't talk about the opcodes that go beyond a for each method call on an array. We never do that. But today they
absolutely not. Yeah,
realize that we're actually talking about the opcodes, but never talking about the for loop itself. You know, and so
got it.
I I'm on a mission because I'm sick and tired of this. I'm on a mission to just make that irrelevant to everybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, the best advice is to just get your hands dirty and start doing things.
Yeah, I would say
And
start with the easiest path forward, and then as you grow, as you scale, if your idea really sticks, if it's useful, then you can go and customize. That's our approach with Toolhouse. So we start with the simplest possible interface. Like you show things in sorry, you talk about things in plain English. So you don't even have to learn how to prompt. You tell tool hours, hey, I want an agent that gets me all the listings in the Bay Area that are under $1,500 for studio apartments. And you hit enter, and tool hours prepares an agent with the best possible prompt engineering techniques. And because we trained it on tool hours itself, then the agent knows how to prepare the prompt.
Yeah, the
And
agent knows how it wants to be talked to, right?
yeah, there's no multi-shot example. There's no chaining. Like, you don't have to learn any of these prompting techniques. Then you deploy it. You can test it. You can deploy it. When you deploy it, it's an API. All of a sudden, bam! It's just an API URL that you get back from tool hours. You don't have to figure out where do I host it. What about streaming? What about server-side events? What about timeouts? We sorted it out.
Availability zones and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you don't
Exactly.
just don't care. You just build it.
Yeah.
And, I think this way of getting things simpler is just a very important thing in every developer-facing product these days, right? Whether it's cloud or AI or whatnot.
Exactly. And the world shows that there is a need for that. Why are we still talking about Heroku and remembering it as a great example? Why people go to Vercel instead of directly like building and hosting their front ends on AWS, for example, and setting up pretty much the same infrastructure? Because it's a front end, and because there's value in not figuring out where to serve your front end, how to set up your CDN. Nobody's doing that. In Auth is the same. Why does Zero exist? Because Auth is very hard, and you don't want to reinvent. You want something that encapsulate most of the use cases, and then you can customize it or do some integrations with it. The same needs to happen in AI, and it hasn't happened in AI just yet. So we are the first to do this end-to-end thing, and we're doing it with the maximum, utmost attention to really making sure that our customers can solve problems for their end users.
Okay, so and how many developers are working at Toolhouse?
We have 4 developers. Just 4
developers. Just 4. So why just 4? Is it that developers are getting replaced, or what's your take on like AI will replace us as a developer?
First of all, we still have kick-ass engineers to begin with. Very smart, very fast. They understand the problem space very well. Second, because we are an AI native company, so we have the luxury of having been born in a time where all these AI tools were available to us, and we didn't have to justify using them. So we use them, and so our developers believe in AI as a service to them, not to replace them. They can do more with less time. At the same time, they can pack more efficiency, And third, because we're a small company, so we need to keep things small and scrappy and efficient. We'll grow when it's time.
So, and what do you think about like the role of a developer over the entire industry? Is it getting replaced, or does the job description just change, or what do you think is a developer doing like 2 years from now?
Yeah, I don't think a software engineer will stop existing just yet. It has changed, though. It has changed. I don't think it's a future state. It's a present state. The role of a software engineer has changed completely, from somebody who can now all of a sudden create more efficiency. So at Twitter, for example, and even at Meta, like larger companies have this organizations called engineering efficiency or internal tools. They build internal tools, and you will have very large teams of engineers try to make the life of the entire end organization much easier by creating maybe custom versions of Git, by speeding up the way a huge monorepo would be handled, by spinning up sandboxes for branch previews, figuring out all this kind of stuff. That was a very artisanal, manual, and custom process before.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of an internal developer platform.
Yeah, exactly, and it will require a lot of time to get it right. Instead, here, those tools are already available to you and to everybody. So every startup now can enjoy, I wouldn't say the same sophistication of tools, but it enjoys the ability to get faster. So what has changed is the fact that you can automate away a lot more work than you will ever be able to do before. And that has changed the way we actually think. The other thing is really the creativity aspect. Like you're never alone anymore as an engineer, never live in a
Yeah.
silo, because something that can give you this creative input that can validate your thoughts and figure out what is not working well just yet. It's really AI thinking for you. Like and if you're a cursor user, and you're a junior developer or just a coder that doesn't really have any professional development experience, you won't realize. And those are just the people that have all this hype. Like people think, oh, cursor is magical, just works. But in reality, if you're doing some sophisticated stuff, you need to actually think. And there are a ton of limitations in how the how AI can help you out. One of these
Yeah.
limitations, for example, is that it's cost. So if you want a larger quote unquote reasoning model, it's going to cost you a lot to generate something, and it becomes not cost effective anymore to actually do some optimization or some thinking using AI at large scale. And the second is really model. So it's the opposite. If you switch to
Yeah.
a lower reasoning model, you will see some regressions throughout the conversation. So as you try and build something that becomes more and more sophisticated, the model trips because it remembers past conversations and it introduces regressions. So it's not as
Yeah.
perfect yet, but and that's why I think I find a ton of value in the in the engineering efficiency, in the internal efficiency of a
Yeah.
company, rather than
I mean,
replacing senior engineers.
that building up of like crap in larger context. I had that the other day when I was just trying to bring Cursor, or it was a code space or Copilot actually, to do a rewrite of a CLI tool from one language to another in a single prompt. So it did work, like for almost half of it, like just on the first attempt. But then it made errors, and that never got away, right? Because it was kind of stuck there. So I think it's very important for developers to actually learn how to interact with AI.
Prompting.
But other than that, it's like the role of a developer. You mentioned that creativity aspect. Would it become more like that of a product manager, maybe? Because we are just like um, our role is now to find creative ways to deliver value, right? And not so much to deliver like sophisticated technical solutions anymore.
Exactly. So think of what's happening in the industry and the shifts that will happen even in the next 1 or 2 years. So we assisted for the past 4 years to a massive round of layoffs all over the tech industry. A lot of engineers now are choosing not to go and find employment again. They actually resort to maybe starting a company themselves, you know, because they fear that if they jump from I don't know, Meta to Google, then they might be getting caught into the next wave of layoffs. And so at some point you have money in the bank. The engineers in Silicon Valley are always well paid. There's a new trend is emerging here that engineers choose to start their own companies. And when they do, they
Yeah,
usually do it with their own money. They don't go to investors and ask for money. They start with their savings. When they start with their savings, they need to get started fast. So if a lot of them will try, but only those who, and they will try to basically build the perfect solution, and they will try to do it themselves. When that happens, that's going to fail because it's going to be too slow. Why? Because there are going to be another cohort of engineers who largely use AI to build this stuff themselves, and they're going to be faster to market. And with the time they have, they can iterate the product faster by listening to the customer faster. That's why tools exist, to help those kind of cohorts. And this is not something I invented, or it's not my opinion. Like just today, as we are recording, this company Base 44 was was acquired by another company for 80 million. They raised $0. They started with their own savings. So this
Hmm.
is what we see happening constantly here, and there's going to be more of those outcomes happening, and you're going to see a lot of these other companies, and that's going to be the new way software is going to be built. You'll have very small utilities that cost very low because there's really little overhead, because we make things that become more cost affordable because the production doesn't really need to be that much of a big show, and everybody wins. Like more tools,
Yeah.
cheaper tools for everybody, powered by a platform that's for everybody and it's cost effective for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we've come a long way, right? I mean, there was very much value in providing micro SaaS for solo developers in replacing Excel sheets, and then from there we got to kind of low code, no code, and now we are at AI, and what brings it us is that we can way more sophisticated, way more complex app and drill them down to simplicity after that.
Exactly. That you're spot on that. Like when Excel was introduced, people think that accountants will be dead. Instead they made it
Yeah,
more effective, more productive. When there's tax season, you can do your calculations easier than ever and reusable of all. And so there's a ton of value in that. AI is going to be the same. It is already proving to be that kind of tool.
yeah, absolutely. So, and what's your take on the adoption in enterprises? I mean, we talked about solo developers. How do large companies react to AI? Are they adopting it quickly, or are they a bit reluctant, or is it hard to say because they are just split up?
They are slow as always, as you would expect, and they're always
Yeah,
slow to adapt. It's not that they're reluctant; they understand that this could be either a massive risk for them or a massive opportunity. But the problem is, enterprises are mostly legacy businesses that are stuck with a lot of processes, and so they cannot change very, very fast. Sometimes for very good reasons, like in healthcare, like you don't want to rush uh, implementing or integrating products that might hurt the health of your customers.
yeah,
Some
absolutely not.
for misorganization, and that is something that we've seen all the time with the dot-com bubble, with the mobile era. And so you're going to see two patterns here. The one is that everybody knows that AI is needed. And the second is you're going to see companies who sprinkle AI onto their products as opposed to actually making the company shift to AI. In both
Yeah, I
cases,
mean that's the hype part actually. There was when that blockchain hype came around, there was I think a orange juice company that just put blockchain on their ticker symbol, and the stock price skyrocketed. So, but this kind of just sprinkling an existing product with AI, that's probably the hype part. But like
yeah,
the serious adoption, yeah, make it
no,
short, it's just slow, right? In enterprises.
yeah, and it's slowing down. AI is a product for the masses, not for enterprises. But there's also a warning sign out there uh, in the cost of enterprise contracts. And again, the piecemeal part versus the entire prepackaged food, like the building the car parts and assembly it yourself as opposed to purchasing a car here is more relevant than ever, because once you when you're an enterprise, you usually try to do things on prem, so you need to buy your own infrastructure. You
Yeah.
want to do things more internally, and CTOs usually need to they have a learning curve themselves, because maybe enterprise CTOs stay there for the longest time. They are more looking inwards towards like maintaining and preserving, protecting the company and protecting the efficiency of their engineering team, rightfully so, than looking out and being distracted. And so for a couple of years, CTOs, director of engineering, VP of Eng, this kind of like leadership roles in engineers have been kind of shielding themselves from AI, saying, let's wait for a moment. It's like, now that we have the latest iOS 26, it's in beta. You don't want to install it right now, but there are some early
Probably
adopters.
not.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you let those go first, and then you install the update like months after it's released, so you know that everything is good. You know of no major bugs. It's safe to go, right? So that delay is
Yeah.
going to be playing a big part of that. And once you start doing that for AI, you start doing it for inference. So for the model providers, you start doing that for RAG, start doing it for memory. And each one of these kind of aspects is a company that needs to be selected from a fierce competition, very large. Each
Yeah.
company has its CEO, sales team, product team, marketing, and so on and so forth. So for each one of these pieces of the puzzle, you have uh, you are paying different salaries for different companies, and that blows up the bill. So if you're trying to do AI in enterprise for to save, to have a higher margin, to save in the cost of operation, let's say you in the case want to fire $1 million worth of workforce, then you replace them with AI, and then the bill is 1.5. So it
Yeah.
ends up costing you more than keeping the old solution, and you spend even more time and more buy-in internally. So the piecemeal there is hurting enterprises, and more so than ever, we need the all-in-one solution that can do everything, or at least do 80%, even 60% of that at a fraction of the cost. And when that happens, then you'll see that there's going to be massive adoption in enterprise as well.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the average typical customer for Toolhouse then? Is it because it is like an all-in-one solution? So is it more like the smaller companies, solo developers, or is it more targeted towards enterprise?
We started with small and medium, but we are getting approached more and more with from enterprise. We have enterprise partners like Qualcomm, for example, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, to do AI on device, Snowflake or enterprise company. So it's our TAM is both vibe coders and developers. Developers alone are about like 40 million in the world. Vibe coders could be everybody. So
Yeah.
our total addressable market is huge, but obviously we see that the early adopters are small and medium companies. So from the vibe coder to up to the Series B, Series C companies, so structured companies with a lot
Got
of
it.
capital that have proved their product market fit, and they are now adopting Toolhouse because they want to iterate faster. They want to have more freedom in that, and they see that with Toolhouse they don't have to worry about things like infrastructure, cloud, regions, all this kind of stuff. It's just like when you use workers on Vercel, which many companies like the way like Series 8 plus companies use. You can deploy them at the edge, or you can choose a region. You don't
Yeah.
have to do this thing in AWS and configure it manually. Instead, what you do is to go to a provider that gives you the infrastructure for you, and you just have to configure it, right? So we're doing the same there, and that's the sweet spot for both small and large.
Got it. So what are the next milestones then for Toolhouse? Like what is on the radar for let's say the next 12 months?
Next 12 months is more of the same. I want to say, like we are hit a point where we're starting to see a lot of word of mouth, which means we must be doing something right. And a product is loved not because you have, a great um, marketing arm. We built a product because the product solves a real pain, and it does it
Yeah.
very well. So it's really more of listening to our customers, understanding what is that they're trying to do, and simplify that. Simplify uh, is the name of the game here. In
Got it.
there's a very fitting metaphor here. Like I don't know. Do you go to the gym, or do
Yeah, I
you
do.
speak? All right. So when you go to the gym, I don't know about you, but when I go to the gym, sometimes I have very intense sessions, and I feel like very
Yeah.
rewarded. It's so hard. I just worked out so hard, and it's paying
These
off.
are the best sessions, yes.
And then I have sessions where I'm lazy, or session where my personal trainer gives me like very easy, simple exercise, and I'm like, uh, So that's what engineers think. And why do they think like this? Because they see that the only thing that they have to do is to like mash up all these solutions together, and it's very hard.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
a great analogy.
yeah, they feel the reward not in building the end use case for their users. They feel the reward in just putting the puzzle together and try to
Yeah,
figure it out. So once they do that, they spend weeks, if not months, making it work all together, and they haven't even built their use cases yet, just the infrastructure behind.
yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
a
Totally
bike,
get it.
yeah, the bike coder loves to actually find those easy sessions, because it's more like accomplishing a goal for them.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, this streak. Okay, I did all easy sessions, but at least I went to the gym every single day, and that's rewarding for them. And
yeah.
that's
That's
pattern
I
that's emerging.
love that analogy. That's so great. A great way to put it actually. And I think that's a thing we as a developer have to learn is actually yeah, how can we deliver value and not being or not thinking of development as being a means to an end, right? And I think that's probably in particular in the tech industry so much so because I mean lots of us started programming as a hobby, right? So they are particularly interested in those technicalities and intricacies of technical details and stuff. And so now that they have a job, they must transform that to actually providing value, right? And for some, that's a hard step. But I totally get it that, I mean, we also talked about the change of the role of a developer due to AI, right? But I think that's a great way to sum it up.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And you mentioned it before, like an engineer will need to talk more like a product manager. And I think there's going to be an inflection point where like a product engineer is going to be just as valuable and as well paid as a senior engineer, or a staff engineer. Um, I think that acumen is now more relevant than ever.
Yeah. And circling back to the beginning of our conversation, that's like to bring back the gym analogy, it's like just getting the reps in and get your hands dirty with AI tools these days if you don't have to already, right? I think that's like always the best piece of advice for a developer. Just do it.
Just do it. Yeah. And for so long, developers haven't had the means to even get started, because the technology was so critical to them, because there are so many moving pieces, moving parts, and like literally nobody had the car. And
Yeah,
now what's happening is we made a car that's easy to drive, and it gives you all you need to call it a car. And so now you can get into this AI freeway on your own. You can drive, you can accomplish something. We are partnering with Lovable, a vibe coding tool that actually allows everybody to skip the MVP and design part. So the usual step in old style development would be that you would either be a designer or work with one to create some mockups. You will usually do
yeah,
it in Figma. You will usually do some whiteboarding. Then you will review, approve, change, and this will happen for a few weeks. And then you will have the initial version of your software. With Lovable and Tools, you can completely skip that part and just tell those tools what you want, and they are already integrated. And so when we build our MVP, for example, um, the MVP is already fully functional. So we don't have to
okay.
really hire designers, or we don't have to have long refinement sessions. And that also justifies why we can be so lean in our hiring as well.
Yeah,
The
totally get it.
process has changed. We have better tools now to do things that can help us out with things that we needed anyway.
Makes total sense. Yeah, so you already mentioned it. The best way to try out Toolhouse is just toolhouse.ai, and then I think there is an npm package that you just can install to get started, right?
That's correct.
So what's the best way to reach out to you, like on socials or LinkedIn or?
So LinkedIn, always there. Try to be as responsive as possible. Sometimes my inbox is a mess, so if I don't reply at first, try after a couple of days because I might just simply miss the DM. But always happy to talk. Then obviously our 2 hours Discord at discord.2hours.ai. More simply, 2hours.ai, you get everything. The CLI is available on npm. Here it is. Um, Super simple. It tells you a story. Basically, when you try to run a command and you run it successfully, it tells you what to do next. If there's
Love
an
it.
error, the error message, we worked a ton on the error message to make it as clear as possible. It tells you how to fix it, and so on and so forth. And then if you want to check out some of the functionality of 2hours, it's free, obviously, to sign up and to get started. Our help is here. You can just talk to our docs built on 2hours as well. So we all of a sudden kind of
Love it.
Sherlock a ton of companies that were doing that as a service. Um, so I'm sorry for all those docs companies, but this is how simple it is these days. Like we don't have
Yeah.
to pay for some service. And come see us, come talk to us. We love feedback, and that's the best possible way to build the best possible product. Like talk.
Love it.
It's not about talking; it's about listening. So the more we listen, the more we understand.
Love it. Yeah, thank you so much. That was an insightful conversation on all the AI topics built like like a car, an AI car.
An AI
Thank you
car.
so much, Daniele.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.